High in the Cordillera Mountains, where the air was thin and cool, the clouds did not simply pass. They lingered, curling around the peaks like spirits guarding the land. At dawn, the mountains glowed in soft gold, and the rivers below shimmered as if they carried pieces of the sun itself. This is the home of the Igorot people. Morning awakens the village. Duyan, a young hunter.
Dion, eat first before you leave.
I'll only be gone a short while, Inna.
The forest listens. You need strength.
It's all right.
Duyan walks toward the river.
You see it, don't you?
The gold.
Not gold, the breath of the ancestors.
Then why do others want it?
Because they think it can be owned. But this land belongs to no one. It is part of us.
Forgive me. I take only what is needed. Your life will not be wasted.
That night, the village gathers.
Changes are coming from the lowlands. Strangers, men in metal.
What do they want?
What cannot be owned?
Will they come here?
If they follow the gold, they will.
The mountains will not fall.
For the first time, the mountains felt uncertain, and the mist returned as if listening. Morning came, but the air felt different. Mist clung longer than usual. Duyan stood near the terraces, watching the mountains.
The wind feels heavy today.
A traveler reached the village, breathless, eyes wide. The people gathered.
Men from the lowlands. They are coming.
Hunters?
No, soldiers. They wear metal, like skin, and carry thunder in their hands.
Thunder!
Guns!
Duyan returned to the river. The gold shimmered, unchanged.
Why do they come for this?
They do not see what we see,
They see wealth.
and forget respect.
Men sharpened blades, bows were checked. The village prepared quietly.
If they come here, we fight. We defend the land.
We do not seek war, but we will not run.
That night, the elders gathered by fire. Shadows danced on their faces.
The lowlanders will not understand us.
Then we must make them stop, or they will take everything.
Duyan sat in silence, staring into the fire.
Can we stop what's coming?
No one stops the tide of men. But we guard what the mountains remember.
Far beyond the mountains, smoke rose, not the kind that warms a home, but the kind that leaves nothing behind. They burn the villages that refuse them. Duyan stood at the edge of the ridge, looking toward the unseen threat.
If they come, they will learn this land does not yield.
For generations, the mountains had stood unbroken, watching, waiting. Now, something stirred beyond them, and this time, the land would be forced to answer. At first light, they came, not as shadows, but as men who believed the mountains would bend. Through the mist, through the quiet breath of the terraces, they walked a path no outsider had ever claimed. Metal against silence, footsteps against sacred ground. The village did not welcome them. It watched. Mothers pulled their children close, not in panic but in knowing. Men stood still, not reaching for weapons, not yet. Because some battles are decided before the first arrow is drawn. Duyan stood behind the elders. He did not look at the strangers. His eyes stayed on his father, watching, waiting, for the moment everything would change. At the center of the village, the elders waited, not to greet, not to yield, but to stand as they always had. Two worlds faced each other, one carried by conquest, the other rooted in the land itself. Neither moved, neither bowed.
You will submit, you will pay tribute, and you will accept our faith, and you will be spared.
No one answered, not a voice, not a whisper. Even the wind seemed to wait. The stranger spoke of power, but Duyan was no longer listening. The world had narrowed to one face, his father's. He searched it for anger, for fear, for anything human, but found none. Only stillness, only stone. Not anger, not fear. His face held something older, unmoving, unshaken, stone. In that silence, the mountains listened. In that stillness, a decision was already being made, not with words, but with will. They had seen men like this before, men who came with promises, with crosses, with fire behind their words, men who believed everything could be taken. But the mountains do not kneel, and neither did they. They did not shout their answer. They did not argue. They did not kneel. The Igorots answered the Empire in the only language the mountains had ever known: unbroken will. No tribute was gathered. No gold was offered. No harvest was surrendered to foreign hands. The terraces remained theirs, carved by their ancestors, watered by generations, guarded by silence. And when the strangers spoke of faith, raising crosses as symbols of power, the elders did not bow their heads. They did not reach for the symbols. They did not accept the promise, because the spirits of the mountains were already with them, and no man could claim dominion over what was already sacred. But refusal is never enough for those who come to take. The Spaniards did not turn back. They moved deeper, step by step, into valleys that did not welcome them, into forests that watched them pass. And the silence began to change. Not fear, not hesitation, preparation. Men who had stood still began to move, quietly, deliberately. Spears were lifted from resting places. Blades were sharpened against stone. Bows were strung, not in haste, but with the patience of men who understood what was coming. Young warriors watched, learned, listened, and among them, Duyan. No longer just a son behind the elders, no longer just a witness. His eyes hardened, not with anger, but with knowing. Because some battles are not chosen, they are answered. And in the highlands, where the earth remembers every step, the first refusal had already become a war. They did not march, they disappeared into the forest where the mountains watched. They were no longer seen, only felt, eyes in the forest. They walked as if the forest was empty, as if no one was watching.
Did you hear that?
Just the wind.
In the shadows of the mountains, the war had found its true form. The Spaniards returned, not as explorers, but as conquerors. This time they came heavier, more men, more steel, more fire. Their armor glinted like cold suns beneath the mountain sky, and their footsteps shook the earth like a coming storm. They no longer searched. They hunted. They came with fire, thinking it would break them. But they did not understand the mountains, nor the people who belonged to them. The Spaniards believed fear would spread faster than flame. They were wrong.
Burn it all! Leave nothing standing. They will kneel, or they will vanish.
But in the shadows, something else was growing. The Igorots did not scatter. They watched, they remembered, and slowly they prepared.
Let them burn what they do not understand. They take everything. No, they only take what we fail to protect.
The fires did not weaken them. They hardened them. Every burned home became a reason, every fallen tree a promise, every cry a call to rise. Fire does not always destroy. Sometimes it forges. And among them stood Duyan, no longer just a watcher of shadows. Now he understood. War was no longer coming. It was here. The battle did not end with victory. It ended with silence. Smoke lingered in the mountains, drifting through the trees like a ghost that refused to leave. The earth was scarred. The forest, once alive with sound, now held its breath. And among the fallen was one of their own. Duyan stood still, his chest rising slowly, eyes fixed on the body before him. His friend, brother in all but blood, lay motionless, dust and ash settling on his skin as if the land itself was claiming him back. His hands trembled as he brushed dirt from his friend's face. For a moment the warrior disappeared, and only the boy remained.
We were supposed to return together.
No answer came, only the distant wind moving through the trees. Behind him, the elders approached, slow, heavy steps, carrying not just age, but memory. They had seen this before, too many times. One of them placed a hand on Duyan's shoulder, firm, grounding.
Grief is the price of standing your ground.
Duyan's jaw tightened, his eyes burning, not with tears alone, but something deeper. Anger, pain, purpose.
How many more must we lose?
The elder looked out over the land, the mountains, the trees, the smoke rising into the sky.
If we lose this land, we lose who we are.
Silence again. But this time, it was not empty. It was heavy with truth. The others gathered behind them, warriors, villagers, survivors, each carrying their own loss, each standing because they had no other choice. Duyan slowly rose to his feet. The boy was gone. What stood in his place was something stronger, something forged not just in battle, but in sacrifice. He looked at the mountains, at the land his people called home, and for the first time he understood. This was no longer just about survival. This was about identity, about memory, about everything they refused to let die. The wind moved again, but now it carried something else, not silence, not grief, but the beginning of something unbreakable.
My people, we have faced great loss. But from that loss, we find our strength.
The rain did not fall, it claimed the land. It came in relentless sheets until the ground itself turned against every step.
Damn this place! We passed this ridge before. Silence! Keep moving!
Hidden among trees, Igorot warriors, still, silent, watching. Duyan stands among them, face calm, eyes sharp.
Do you hear that? Stand your ground! Fight them! Where are they? I can't see anything. Lift it! It's stuck! It won't move! We're running out! We can't even find the path back and... They're watching us. I hear them, even when they're not there.
A soldier stands guard, rain dripping from his helmet. He hears something, turns, nothing. Turns back, Duyan is already there. Brief eye contact, calm, understanding. The soldier hesitates. Fear overtakes him, too slow. Duyan moves. Morning mist. The Spanish camp is broken, scattered gear, fewer men, silence.
They're fighting the mountain dam. Not us. And the mountain always wins.
They had come with fire, with steel, with certainty, with the belief that the mountains would bow as all lands before them had. But the mountains did not bow. They endured. The rain did not stop when the Spaniards turned back. If anything, it followed them, relentless, unforgiving. Nothing here wanted them. Supplies had dwindled beyond recovery. Food rotted, powder failed, even fire refused them. They were not being defeated in battle, they were being undone. And always, there was the feeling that they were not alone. From the fog, shapes seemed to form, then vanish, a movement between trees, a shadow where none should be, a sound that did not belong to wind or rain. Some swore they saw figures watching, others refused to look too long, because every time they did, there was nothing there. But something had changed. They no longer marched as conquerors. They moved like men trying to leave a place that did not want them to remember the way out. The mountains gave no final battle, no grand clash, no moment of victory to claim. Instead, they offered something far worse, silence. And in that silence, the truth became undeniable. This was not land to be taken. It was land that chose who could remain. High above, unseen among the ridges and veils of mist, they watched. They did not pursue. They did not celebrate. They simply remained still, steady, part of the mountain itself. They had not needed to overpower the invaders. They had only needed to let the land speak. As the last of the Spaniards disappeared beyond the slopes, swallowed by distance and rain, the mountains grew quiet once more. The fog settled. The wind softened. The trails, hidden again, returned only to those who belonged. This was not a victory shouted into the sky. It was something deeper, something older. The mountains had not been defended. They had been understood. And that was something no army could conquer. Peace returned, but it was not the kind that erased what had passed. It was a quiet, watchful peace, the kind that settled slowly, like mist over the valleys at dawn, soft but never empty. The rain, at last, had eased. The rivers ran clearer. The forests breathed again, but the memory remained, not in words, not in records, but in the land itself. High above the valleys, where the wind moved freely between ridges, Duyan stood, barefoot on wet stone, unmoving. He looked out over the mountains, not as a man surveying victory, but as one listening. Below him, the trails were hidden again. The paths that had once carried invaders were gone, reclaimed by roots, by moss, by time. The valley showed no sign of what had passed, no scars that did not belong. Only the land, only what had always been. Behind him, his people moved quietly. No cheers, no celebration. They returned to rhythm, because survival was never a moment. It was continuity. The wind shifted, carrying with it the scent of wet earth, pine, and distant water. Duyan closed his eyes briefly, not in relief, but in recognition. The land had spoken, and his people had listened. That was the difference. Far below, the fog moved like a living thing, folding into valleys, slipping between trees, concealing what should not be found. To outsiders, it was disorientation. To his people, it was home. Generations would pass, stories would be told, not loudly, not as conquest, but as memory carried through quiet voices, through ritual, through the way paths were walked and land was respected. Children would grow knowing not just where they lived, but how to belong to it.
Remember the stories the wind whispers through the pines. for they carry the wisdom of our ancestors.
And the mountains would remain unbroken, unclaimed, unbowed. Not because they could not be conquered, but because they were never separate from the people who called them home. And so the Cordillera endured, not as a place that resisted, but as a place that could not be taken.